Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a number so ridiculously big, it feels more like science fiction than reality. The United States national debt. You hear about it all the time, right? But we're about to unravel the biggest mystery at its core.
Just look at that. Over $27 trillion. Let that sink in for a moment. It's staggering. A number so huge, it's hard to even wrap your head around it. And it makes you ask one really obvious question.
Exactly! Who on earth has that kind of money to lend out? Is it some shadowy global organization? A single rival country holding all the cards? Well, that's the mystery we're going to solve today.
Okay, but hold on. Before we can figure out who the US owes all this money to, we first need to understand how a government even borrows money in the first place. It's actually a pretty clever system when you get down to it. It all comes down to something called Treasury bonds. The easiest way to think about them is as official IOUs from Uncle Sam. When the government needs cash, it sells these bonds. You buy one, and in return, the government promises to pay you back the full amount down the road, plus a little extra in interest. Simple as that.
So who's buying these IOUs? Well, just about everyone. We're talking big banks, huge investment funds, other countries, and even regular folks. In fact, if you have a retirement account, there's a good chance you own some. They're considered one of the safest investments on the planet because, well, the US government is really good at paying its bills.
All right, so now we know the how. It's all about selling these super safe bonds. So let's get to the main event, the big question. Who actually owns all $27 trillion worth of them? I gotta tell you, the answer is probably not what you're expecting.
Get this. While we all picture our debt being owed to someone else, the shocking truth is that, for the most part, the US government owes the money to itself. I know, that sounds totally bizarre, so let's break down what on earth that actually means. This simple little chart pretty much flips the whole narrative on its head. A massive 70% of the entire national debt is held right here within the United States. Only about 30% is actually owed to other countries.
So let's zoom in on that huge 70% chunk of the pie. Who, specifically inside the US, is holding all of this debt? It's not just one single group. Okay, check this out. The biggest piece, about a third of the total debt, belongs to US investors. That's banks, pension funds, insurance companies, regular people. The Fed holds about 12%. But look at that middle bar. A whopping 27% is owned by the US government itself. And this is the part that makes your brain hurt a little bit, right? It sounds like a total contradiction, a financial paradox. So let's really focus in on this one, because it's the most surprising piece of the whole puzzle. I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? It feels like taking money from your right pocket, loaning it to your left pocket, and then having your left pocket pay you interest. But in the weird world of government accounting, it actually makes a kind of sense.
Here's how it works. You have these massive government programs, like Social Security and Medicare. They often collect more in taxes than they pay out in benefits, so they have a huge surplus of cash just sitting there. They can't just stuff it in a mattress, so they use that extra cash to buy Treasury bonds. The Treasury then pays interest back to these agencies, and that interest money becomes another way to help fund Social Security and Medicare benefits. It's really just a big internal accounting loop.
Okay, so what about that other 30% we talked about, the slice held by other countries? Well, the two biggest names on that list are Japan and China. They're followed by places like Brazil, Ireland, and the UK. But here's the key. They don't buy our bonds to try and control us. It's a business decision. US bonds are a super stable investment, and buying them helps these countries manage the value of their own currency, which is really important for global trade.
So let's put all these pieces back together and look at the final complete picture, because understanding this breakdown is absolutely crucial if you want to cut through the political noise and see what's really going on. And there you have it, the whole shebang. As you can see, the American public, through investors and institutions, is the single largest owner of the debt. Then you have foreign holders, and the US government itself holding pretty similar sized chunks. And finally, the Federal Reserve holds the smallest piece. So the biggest takeaway here is pretty clear. That common idea that one single rival country owns America's debt, it's just not true. It's a misconception. The reality is that ownership is spread all over the place, and, most importantly, the majority of it is held right here at home. And that's a big deal, because it means most of the interest the US pays on its debt is actually getting paid back to American citizens, businesses, and government funds. It keeps circulating right back into our own economy.
And all of this brings us to the ultimate $27 trillion question. Now that we know who we actually owe the money to and how the system works, do you think a debt this massive can ever truly be paid off? That's something to think about. Thanks so much for watching.